Former President Donald Trump today announced a major class action lawsuit against big tech. Would he succeed? China's Navy is viewed as posing a major challenge to the US Navy since the end of Cold War. Is it true? A former Chinese Naval Command Lieutenant Colonel will tell you the truth. Hi everyone, welcome to our show. Today it will be only myself. We cannot make it, so hope you will still enjoy the show. So there are two pieces of news we'll talk about today. So first of all, about former President Trump announced that he will lead a class action lawsuit against three big tech, Facebook, Twitter, and Google, over alleged censorship. So he said at a press conference in Bedminster, New Jersey today.
Today, in conjunction with the America First Policy Institute, I'm filing as the lead class representative a major class action lawsuit against the big tech giant.
We all know that President Trump has been booted out of the three platforms after January 6th. He said that the big tech is out of control and is functioning as the de facto censorship arm of the government.
While the social media companies are officially private entities, in recent years they have ceased to be private with the enactment and their historical use of Section 230, which profoundly protects them from liability.
And Trump said that the big tech has in fact become a massive government subsidy, which has never happened before. And these companies have been co-opted, coerced, and weaponized by government actors to become the enforcer of illegal, unconstitutional censorship, quote unquote. So, but President Trump said that this lawsuit is not only about himself, it is a class lawsuit. So it's all about the people who feel that their First Amendment rights have been violated by the big tech. And this at core of this lawsuit, it's the Section 230 and whether these companies should abide by this First Amendment. So some people believe that President Trump's suit may face an uphill battle because they believe that the First Amendment cannot apply to private companies, even if they do benefit from government policies like Section 230. So how do you think? I would really like to hear from you, so please share your opinion with everyone. So, and also whether the companies are essentially public because of Section 230 could also face some challenge. Some supporters of Section 230 argue that companies, especially when it's very small, and also some consumers benefit in some way from Section 230. But Trump warned that the power of the social media companies is growing to be too great. And, quote, there is no better evidence that the big tech is out of control than the fact that they banned the sitting president out of the United States earlier this year. And he said, if they can do it to me, they can do it to anyone. So President Trump actually believed that he will win the lawsuit.
We're going to hold big tech very accountable. This is the first of numerous other lawsuits, I assume, that would follow. But this is the lead, and I think it's going to be a very, very important game changer for our country. It will be a pivotal battle in the defense of the First Amendment, and in the end, I am confident that we will achieve a historic victory for American freedom and at the same time, freedom of speech.
So what do you think? Will Trump win over the arguments, win this lawsuit? So the role of impact of technology on the Western civilization, on the liberty, our system, really is something that we are facing. So if we only look at the mechanism or the technicality of the law, you may feel that, if the private companies should not be restricted by the First Amendment. But if we just take a look at the Constitution and the essentials of the First Amendment, do you think the companies, because of some law, they could just restrict people from speaking of their minds? So that reminds me of something that the economist Milton Friedman had commented on the impact of internet. He said, quote, "I think that the internet is going to be one of the major forces for reducing the role of government." So at the time, he believes that actually the technology, the internet, is going to reduce the role of government. But how come we come to this stage that actually people feel that the government's power has become bigger? If they, put out some policies which will benefit the tech companies, and if they just work together, then the people's freedom could be restricted. So I think this is really a big test for us, one of the big tests for us now, and really need some wisdom and going to some of the essentials of our founding principles. So, what do you think? Please share at the comment. Would love to pick on your brain and I think all of us, it's just really facing, no matter you have been censored or feel that you've been censored or shadow banned by the social media platforms or not, but it could happen to you in the future. So what do you think? All right, so while you are commenting, sharing with us, I will just go on to the second piece of the news. So a few days ago, the US Congressional Research Service updated a report on the modernization of the Chinese Navy and its impact on the US Navy's capabilities. The report shows that since the early to mid-1990s, Chinese Communist government has been steadily modernizing the Chinese Navy for more than 25 years. It has become, according to the report, it has become a formidable military force within China's near seas region, and it is conducting a growing number of operations in more distant waters, including the broader waters on the Western Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and the water around Europe. And the Congressional Research Service is part of the U.S. Congress. The report was written by Ronald O'Rourke, a naval affairs expert in the division. In the summary of this report, it says, China's Navy is viewed as posing a major challenge to the U.S. Navy's ability to achieve and maintain wartime control of blue water ocean areas in the Western Pacific, the first such challenge the U.S. Navy has faced since the end of the Cold War. China's Navy formed a key element of a Chinese challenge to the long-standing status of the United States as the leading military power in the Western Pacific. So it sounds like the situation is pretty serious. So I would like to share with you some insiders' opinion, but as of now, I would like to read off some of the comments that we can see. Oh, yeah, thank you, Curtis, for your kind support. Really, really appreciate your kind of donation. And Twinkly said, the wording of 230 has to get specific and to deal with social media platforms, right? So, yeah, I think that's one of the points that have to look into more specifically on the terms of the 230. And Curtis said, break the big tech up like they did with Ma Bell. Twinkly said, I have been censored when I try to share Hunter Biden's info on Facebook. However, I have never been banned. Okay. And so James, California said, Congress will not act, so Trump will. Politicians only talk and show no actions. Indeed, when, walk the talk, that's something that we always want the politicians do. And some of them do, but many of them don't. So really everybody has to just do their part, do everybody's part to either, urge your representatives to do something, or you just do by, take actions on yourself. Maybe run for office, maybe just email, call the offices of your district, the representatives of your district. Okay, so let's continue on with this naval report. So this report is from the Congressional Research Service. So this report analyzes the multiple purpose Chinese Communist government's naval modernization. It says the purpose is assessed as being aimed at developing capabilities for addressing the situation with Taiwan militarily if need to be. And the other goal for CCP is to achieve a greater degree of control or domination over China's near seas region, particularly the South China Sea. Also, it is to enforce China's view that it's Chinese government's view that it has the right to regulate foreign military activities in its 200-mile maritime exclusive economic zone, and also to defend China's commercial sea lines of communication, particularly those linking China to the Persian Gulf. And also one of the goals is to displace U.S. influence in the Western Pacific and for asserting China's status as a leading regional power and a major world power. So that's the analysis and assessment by the Congressional Research Service about the Chinese government's modernization of its navy. And in reality, recently, Chinese government has increased its military pressure on Taiwan and has continuously sent military aircrafts to invade Taiwan's airspace. Some people even worried that Beijing may seize Taiwan by force in the near future. In response to its possibility, the United States and Japan recently held military exercises and joint military training. So the report mentioned that in the recent years, the U.S. Navy, how it deal with that, it has taken a number of actions to counter China's naval modernization effort, such as shifted a greater percentage of its fleet to the Pacific, assigned its most capable new ships and aircrafts and its best personnel to the Pacific. Also, it maintained or increased general presence operations, training and developmental exercises, and engagement and cooperation with allied and other navies in the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. Navy also increased the planned future size, initiated, increased, or accelerated numerous programs for developing new military technologies and acquiring new ships, aircrafts, unmanned vehicles, and weapons. Besides, the U.S. Navy also began development of new operational concepts, such as new ways to employ Navy and Marine Corps forces for countering Chinese government's Navy. And the US Navy also signaled that in coming years, it will shift to a more distributed fleet architecture that will feature a smaller portion of larger ships, a larger portion of smaller ships, and a substantially greater use of unmanned vehicle. So that's in a summary of how the US Navy is countering the Chinese Communist Navy modernization. So overall, how does the US Navy force compare to the Chinese naval force? According to this report, some observers from the United States and other countries believe that the United States today has more naval capabilities in general, but the modernization efforts of the Chinese Navy since the 1990s have weakened the United States' superiority. They believe that if the current trend line of Sino-US naval capabilities remains unchanged in terms of overall naval capabilities, they said the CCP may eventually be equal to or even surpass the United States. And the Congressional Research Office said in the report that in this era of renewed great power competition, China's military modernization effort, including its naval modernization effort, has become the top focus of U.S. defense planning and budgeting. And the report said that in response to this report, Congress should consider whether the U.S. Navy is responding appropriately to China's naval modernization effort. And the decision reached by the Congress on this issue may affect the security, naval capabilities, and the capabilities of the United States and its allies, funding requirements, and the foundation of the defense industry. So that's is an overview of this report updated by the Congressional Research Service in regards to the Chinese government's naval modernization and its impact on the U.S. Navy. So exactly how powerful is Chinese Communist government's naval force? Actually, I interviewed two experts from another perspective to analyze the real strength of the CCP's army, including Navy, and the real power of the CCP. So actually both these two experts used to belong to the members of the Chinese Communist government system. One of them, Mr. Yao, Chen Yao, he's a former officer of the Chinese Communist Party's naval command. He's a lieutenant colonel. The other gentleman is a famous historian and author, Mr. Xing, Hao Nianxing. So actually, Mr. Yao, the naval command officer, who's a lieutenant colonel, he had an amazing story. He used to be a very important, he has been very successful in the Chinese Navy, and but in 1997 he took a secret mission to basically steal the Russian helicopter from Laos, and actually basically he flew this helicopter, just paid a very a small fee to the Laos government, and flew the helicopter into China. However, because it's a secret it's a secret mission, it got into some trouble. Long story short, he thought he's gonna get a award because he just did such a great thing, right? They stole this helicopter in order to steal the technology. Okay, because the Russian just tried to charge a lot of money to the Chinese Navy, for this helicopter. So they decided to just steal it so that they can reverse engineer it and make by its own. So anyway, so eventually Mr. Yao was sentenced to 7 years in prison. And the reason is because his case was caught by a rival. Like basically, it's internal struggle among the military leadership in the CCP, and he was under command of one force, right? The two forces are competing, and so he became the scapegoat, and that's why after he survived the prison term, and he managed to escape to the United States and starting to just do everything he can to expose the CCP. So he knows a lot of the insides of the Navy, the CCP Navy, and the military. So basically, according based on Mr. Yao, he said no matter an army force or a country, the power, it does not only include the hardware part, like what kind of equipment and the weapons it has, right? But also some soft power, soft aspect, which is the people. So Mr. Yao believes that the strength of the CCP's army, especially the Navy that he's really familiar with, is very, very poor. And he said that the reason is because of the system. There's no law, no legal procedure. Just for his case, right? There's no trial. He was sentenced to 7 years just because there is a leadership struggle, power struggle. So he said he exposed that actually since the Xi Jinping took over the power, at least 7 generals in the Chinese Navy jumped off the building, suicide. But actually, some of them may not be truly suicide. They were suicided because of the power struggle. So he believes that also like how the Xi Jinping and some people just claim that the CCP can really take over the Taiwan very easily, and we mentioned how this Congressional Research Report says that, but there's one detail that you may not notice is that the recent aircraft invasion of Taiwan's airspace. Why it's airspace? There's no naval ships to the Taiwan Sea, right? And Mr. Yao said this is because actually in the Chinese military system, Xi Jinping really has no control over the Navy, because this Navy still is under the control of the former General Secretary of the CCP, Jiang Zemin. And so Xi Jinping only has some power control over the Air Force. So overall, the reason why he believes that actually CCP's military, including the Navy, is very weak, it is because of the system. It is because the CCP's leadership control of the military is just separate. And the older generation of the leadership still try to control the military. Okay, so the newer leadership like Xi Jinping, does not really control everything. And for the military personnel like him, having good, and everybody is just feel threatened. There's no security, there's no security for each of them. So Mr. Yao, he said that he believes that actually CCP is very weak, and also although they are celebrating this centennial anniversary just a week ago, but he said it's like they are really at the edge of collapsing because of the power struggle, the inside power struggle. And also he said because CCP has no ideology belief anymore. In China, basically nobody really believes in communism anymore. They lost, they makes people even lost that belief. So, and the other historian, the author, Mr. Xing, Hao Nianxing, he also believes that, listen to, I have to rephrasing what he says because he said in Chinese. He believes that the Western democracy countries led by United States, the leadership, the politicians, they did not really understand the Chinese Communist government, the Chinese Communist Party. He said they don't really, and he believes that the Western democracy leadership just viewed Chinese CCP just too strong. He said they are not strong at all. They are not strong at all. Just but they are like a paper tiger. And he said there's a blind spot by the Western, especially the US so-called China experts or the scholars who try to understand China and the Chinese Communist Party. He said that they just put too much power. They view CCP too powerful. And he said they are not. But when they said CCP is powerful, then the CCP just tried to present this image. And then, it's like a vicious cycle. So his logic is that he said if you really try to understand China, try to understand the CCP, you really have to go to the society of China, go to the the streets of China, go to the villages of China, just to talk to the Chinese people to see how their life is, and talk to them to understand them, not just try to put on so much emphasis on the Chinese Communist government's leadership, the government, the political machines, and its skyscrapers, and the landmarks. And he pointed out one thing is that in the Western society, those business people and the politicians, one shortcoming is they just love the money too much, and the CCP just take the loophole and buy off those people who like money too much. But overall, he said both experts just said actually CCP, it's dying. That's why actually they said why it puts such a grand show and on its centennial celebration, because it's dying. Okay, so that's their observation from their background and their views. So I just would like to share with you. So how do you think? Let me see some of the comments here. Sonny, CCP tactics are cruel and inhumane. That's for sure. That's just so true. And Judy, Marshall, our men and the women sign up for the military. CCP, I imagine, forces their people to serve. Oh, you are so right. That reminds me, when I was little, I saw families, like especially moms, some of them, they just cry. They are just so heartbreaking because their son are drafted to the military. And I remember, I was very little, but I vividly remember one mom she just so heartbreaking that she lied down actually in front of the truck, the military truck, tried to take her son away, to the military. She just lied down in front of the truck and crying. So, yeah, I know we all know that in our country, right, men and women, they just really volunteer themselves to sign up for the military. And every one of them, they truly wanted to be part of this great mission to, to be part of just, protect everyone's freedom and liberty, and even sacrifice themselves. So we really appreciate that. So that's a major difference. That's a major difference between the U.S. military and the CCP's military, and I think that makes a big difference. That's why actually I think a lot of people are concerned about the military in our country right now. Some of trying to also do some critical race theory training. This would actually weaken our military. So, and right, so it's already 30 minutes, so I think I will just stop here. Unfortunately, no jokes. Didn't have enough time to prepare, so hope you will. Actually, this will put on more debt on Wei, right? I think you would agree. Okay, all right. Thanks so much for being with me with our show, and please, share our channel, our contents if you really like it, and so we'll talk to you. I will see you on Friday. Actually, we're gonna be at a CPAC in Dallas, Texas. So we'll bring you some of the, what's going on there to you. So, and we'll try to see if we can get to the border. It's a little bit challenging with the limited time planning and the resource, but we'll see. All right, so take care. We'll see you on Friday. Bye-bye.